So thanks very much for tuning in to this talk entitled It's 50 Footballers. I'm going to be talking about 20 of the footballers mentioned in my latest book, 50 Footballers. And you can see the cover there on the first slide. So I'm going to be talking about 20 of them, and some of them are featured on the front cover. So you can see that the front cover features 12 full team in the old days, and they're in 1 to 12. So a few of them, as I say, Harry Gregg will be mentioned in the talk. So I'll rattle through them and say 20 of them, and there might, as an Ard supporter, there might be an overrepresentation of Ards players, but hopefully not. But I've tried to get a bit of a spread in terms of geographical spread and not make it as big two centric as not focus on the big two. Of course, as an Ards supporter, when I say the big two, I mean Bangor and Ards. So that's the front cover. And this is the first one. So this is Belfast City Cemetery. This is the final resting place of Alex Crawford. So these are in chronological order. So in terms of the year of death. So Alex is was the first is the oldest person we're going to be mentioning here in terms of his death. He was born in Belfast around 1869. He signed for Cliftonville, and then he joined Distillery, where he developed into one of the most accomplished and popular players in the game. With Distillery, he played in 2 consecutive Irish Cup finals, first in 1888, and the second saw a close fought 5-4 win over the YMCA. 1889 also brought a County Antrim Shield winners medal. Then Crawford signed for Cliftonville. On his first season back at Solitude, he played in the 3-0 replayed Irish Cup final defeat by the Gordon Highlanders Regiment at Ulsterville. The next year saw the foundation of the Irish League, and Cliftonville finished 4th out of the 8 clubs. Crawford then rejoined Distillery again in 1881, but it was only a brief return as he was back at Cliftonville for the 1882-3 season, playing in his 4th Irish Cup final in 1883 when the Reds lost 5-1 to Linfield. Crawford won the first of 7 Ireland caps in 1889, and during a 4-year international career had the honour of captaining his country. In October 1886, Alex Crawford took ill with a severe attack of gastric fever not long after playing a match, and he passed away 3 weeks later at the tender age of only 27. He was registered as living at Foxfield House, which stood opposite Harding Memorial School on the Craiger Road. So anybody that knows that neck of the woods, basically where Daddy Winkler's Lane is, that's where Foxfield House was, where the Red Rooster restaurant used to be. So that's Michael from Cockcroft from the Northern Ireland Football Museum. He owns one of his medals. You can see that there. That's the one for one of the Irish Cup finals that Alex was successful in. So that's the copy of the medal. That's the first one. And say Belfast City Cemetery. Second one then is over to Cornmoney Cemetery. And this headstone here, it says to your left, it says erected by Cliftonville Football and Athletic Club to the memory of Tom Scott, for many years a faithful and valued member of the team. Born 8th August 1873, died 12th May 1908. So Tom was a multi-honoured goalkeeper. He won his first Ireland cap in 1893 as a 21-year-old while playing for Cliftonville. Over the next 6 years, he was a virtual ever-present on the international stage, winning 13 caps. In 1887, Scott won his only Irish Cup medal following a 3-1 defeat of Sherwood Foresters at Distillery's Grosvenor Park ground. His time at Solitude also brought success in the County Antrim Shield and Charities Cup, prior to a move to Scotland to play for Partick Thistle in Glasgow in 1898. He already lasted just a month in Scotland, leaving following a dispute with the management over money. On his return to Belfast, he resumed his career with Cliftonville and regained his place in the Ireland team. He remained on the books at Solitude until retiring at the end of his 1902 season. He was a sickly man even in his playing days, and he succumbed to tuberculosis on the 12th of May 1908, aged just 34. So that's a photograph of him top right, of Tom Scott top right. And then bottom right then is this unusual plaque on the grave, and it says Tom Scott interred there with like a nearly like a comedy hand pointing at where exactly he's buried in that plot. That's Tom Scott, say, in Carnmoney. It's actually in the grounds of the parish churchyard there. The next one then is, I think it's actually the only representation of Ards. This is the Andy Bothwell, and he is buried in Middle Ballinderry churchyard, just outside Lisburn. He was born in Kildare Street in East Belfast on the 7th of October 1900, the youngest of 5 children. He joined Ards in August 1925, proving to be one of the shrewdest signings that the club would ever make. He made 95 appearances and scored 37 goals for Ards over 3 seasons. During his time at Ards, he won 5 international caps for Ireland, the very first Ards player to gain international caps. In October 1925, after only 10 appearances for Ards, Bothwell received his first full international cap when he was chosen as the only Irish League representative for the Ireland game against England at Windsor Park. The blue-shirted Irish, including the legendary Elisha Scott, gained a credible scoreless draw on 24th October in front of 35,000 spectators. Bothwell was a Belfast bus conductor, and he was Ards' top scorer in 1926-27 with a total of 20 goals, contributing towards an Irish Cup final victory versus Cliftonville. And he played his last game for Ards on 21st January 1928. It was a 4-1 home defeat to Belfast Celtic, but sadly he died aged only 27 on 4th February 1928, with the cause of death given as peritonitis brought on by a burst appendix. So that's the sad case of Andy Bothwell. These are all quite depressing premature deaths, these first ones, the first 3. This is the next one then. This is down to Bangor New Cemetery, and this is the final resting place of Paddy McCann, Patrick known as Paddy McCann. And say this in Bangor New Cemetery, which is on Newton Ards Road in Bangor. But you can see from the headstone, it just says McCann and then RIP. So there are other family members in there, but they're not commemorated on the headstone. Neither is Paddy McCann. He was born in 1881, and during a career in sports spanning 2 decades, he was a member of the Dolphins GAA club. He won 3 All-Ireland Senior Football Championship medals with Dublin and was also an accomplished sprinter. In 1906, 1 year after the GAA annual Congress reimposed a compulsory ban against playing foreign games, McCann joined Belfast Celtic. He lined out regularly as a fullback over 4 seasons from 1906 to 7, and he played in that year. He played in the club, the team that retained the City Cup, and then they were runners up in the Irish League. In 1909-10 season, he won his first 3 senior Ireland caps, playing in each match of the international series against England, Scotland, and Wales. During the 1910-11 season, shortly after winning his 4th cap, he transferred to Glentoran. There he was a stalwart of the powerful pre-war teams that over 5 seasons were twice Irish League champions and thrice league runners-up, whilst winning 4 City Cups and the 1911 County Antrim Shield. He played on the Glentoran team that won the side's first Irish Cup, the final victory over Linfield in 1914. He made 151 appearances for the Glens, and during his years with the Glentoran was capped 3 more times by Ireland. In later life, he was a familiar figure in Belfast racing circles, and he died suddenly on the 22nd of June 1935 at his home at 9 Crosby Street in Bangor. So if anybody, Paddy McCann is one of the characters that features prominently in Sam Robinson's excellent One Saturday Before the War book and then subsequent play. And that was on the Bright Umbrella Theatre Group put that on in their little theatre at the bottom of Castlereagh Street. And it's on again in at the end of July, start of August. So if you haven't seen that, I would definitely recommend it, even if you're not a Glens fan. But it's a fantastic show. That's Paddy McCann and Bangor. The next one then is this is back in the Belfast City Cemetery, and this is the Gibson plot. And William Kennedy Gibson, he was born on the 1st October 1876. He was a talented footballer who played for Cliftonville whilst at school, also playing 13 matches for the Ireland national team from 1884 to 1902. He scored once against England and captained the side on 4 occasions. He won numerous honours with Cliftonville before becoming president of the club, then becoming active in its management. Outside of football, he worked as a solicitor and he provided legal advice to the Irish Football Association, and he became the IFA's vice chairman in 1907. He was also an independent unionist, and he died in the Nervous Diseases Hospital in Belfast on the 9th of December 1949, aged 73, whilst registered as living at Chelsea, 763 Antrim Road in Belfast. The Gibson Cup, presented on an annual basis to the league champions, the Irish League champions, including the 1958 Ards, is named in the Gibson family's honour. So that's where the Gibson Cup comes from this man and his family. His father was a very interesting person. He was the governor of the Linnenhall Library and sold his collection of Burnsiana, in other words, collects works of Robert Burns to Linnenhall Library. So that's every year they have an Andrew Gibson memorial lecture on Burns Day. The next one I mentioned him briefly earlier. This is Belfast City Cemetery again, and this is Elisha Scott. He played for Linfield, sorry for the strong language, Norman, and Broadway United before signing for Liverpool in 1912. Following a recommendation from his older brother Billy. Elisha Scott made his Liverpool debut on the 1st of January 1913 at St James's Park during a scoreless draw with Newcastle. The Great War interrupted Scott's career for 4 years, but after the cessation of hostilities, he finally established himself as Liverpool's #1 and was a major part of the back-to-back championship winning teams of 1922 and 23. So a famous story, possibly incorrect, associated with Dixie Dean, the star striker for rivals Everton, was that the two men once encountered each other in the street. Actually, it's supposed to be in Belfast. But Dean was famed for his remarkable heading ability. And he touched his hat and nodded to Scott as they were about to pass, only for Scott to respond by diving as if he was to try to save an imaginary header. 1934, Belfast Celtic offered Scott a player manager role, and he made the last of his 467 Liverpool appearances versus Chelsea on the 21st February 1934. He played his final game for Belfast Celtic then in 1936 at the age of 42. In his time as manager of Belfast Celtic, the club won 10 Irish League titles, 6 Irish Cups, 3 City Cups, 8 Gold Cups, and 5 County Antrim Shields. And Elisha Scott still holds the record as Liverpool's longest serving player. So you might be able to see there in the headstone to the right, you'll see just to the left of his name, you can see the Belfast Celtic logo, and then slightly faded then to the right is the Liverpool Football Club logo. So it's very famous Elisha Scott, is a Belfast City Cemetery. Next one then is not too far from the City Cemetery, it's Milltown Cemetery. And this is Charlie Tully. He was born the 11th of July 1924 and he signed for Belfast Celtic in 1938. The club was managed by Elisha Scott. He was an outstanding left winger. He made his first team debut against Glentoran in 1942 when he was only 17. He established himself as one of the most exciting players in the local scene. Belfast Celtic won an astonishing sequence of 31 games in the 1947-8 season, as Tully collected an Irish League Championship medal before signing for Glasgow Celtic in June 1948. His journey across the Irish Sea for a then sizable fee of £8,000 triggered a frenzied response from fans in Glasgow, and Tully became the darling of the Hoops fans for over a decade, with his cheeky approach to football making him one of the best loved Celtic icons of all time. When he left in the summer of 1959 to sign for Cork Hibs, he played 319 times for Celtic and scored 43 goals. He only won one league title at the Hoops, as well as two Scottish Cups and two League Cups. On the international front, he was capped 11 times, and Belfast boy, or Cheeky Charlie, died on 27th July 1971, aged only 47. His funeral brought the Falls Road to a standstill, with the coffin partly borne by Celtic's manager Jock Stein and club captain at the time, Billy McNeil. So that's Charlie Tully. You can see there's a number of wreaths on his grave, and there's a little Belfast Celtic Football Club Society plaque there as well, as there are a number of graves in Milltown. This is down to St Mary's Roman Catholic graveyard on the Shore Road at Greencastle, just in Newton Abbey. This commemorates Molly Seaton. You can see there she's commemorated as Big Molly. She was born in North Belfast in 1905, and she lived in Dandy Street, not far from the docks. And she worked in Belfast linen mills. She was tall and very strong. She became a noted footballer, famous for her hard tackling, and formed a local women's team, Castle Rovers, and was a star player for them. She gained celebrity status in Belfast football, known for her strong personality, as well as her dominance on the pitch. She played for many different teams and in exhibition games organised by Glen Foran. She also captained the Ireland team against teams from England, Scotland, and France. In 1927, she joined the best team in Scotland at the time, Rutherglen Ladies. She knew her own worth and had Castle Rovers paid her 10 shillings a game. And she even had her own agent, Joe Farrell, who arranged for her to appear in newspaper advertisements aimed at female readers. Known for her liking of tobacco and beer, Molly was often seen in pubs like Morrison's Bar or the Edinburgh Castle Hotel. But after the 1930s, she faded onto the margins of history. And Mary Ann, known as Big Molly Seaton, also known as Dandy Street's answer to George Best, died on 12th January 1974, aged 68. Only recently did her story has become a bit better known through researchers like a man called Steve Bolton, and also through Tara Lynn O'Neill's Rough Girls play. So I don't have a photograph of the next one. Is Selena, known as Sis Blanchflower. She was a very good footballer, and she was brought up at 7 Elmdale Street in Belfast, now the site of Bloomfield Fuels. And she was a captain of Bloomfield Ladies at a time when ladies football was less popular than it is now. According to his son William, who I was speaking to on the phone in 2020, Sis's footballing sons Jackie and Danny gained their sporting prowess from their mother, a fact confirmed by Danny himself in an article entitled "My Mother Was an Inside Right." So the Sis lived in Dunraven and in Grace Avenue, and that's the location of a blue plaque unveiled in Danny's memory in March 2015. But people know about Danny, but they often forget about Jackie, pictured there to the left. He played for Manchester United on 117 occasions. He won 2 league titles and set 12 Northern Ireland caps before his career was cut short due to injuries sustained in the Munich air crash. Danny captained Spurs in the 1960s when they won the league, the FA Cup, and the European Cup Winners' Cup. He also made 56 appearances for his Northern Ireland international, later managing the team, and became a renowned and eloquent sports journalist. Their mother, Sis, was living at 1 Kingsbrae at Knock, and she died on 9th September 1974, age 72. So say I would love to get a photograph of this, but I haven't been able to yet. So I've looked through books about Danny Blanchflower, no luck. So if anybody knows of one, I'd be keen to see it. Next one then is down to Lurgan Cemetery, and this is Wilbur Cush. He was born 10th June 1928. He started his career with my dad's team in Heaven, 1951. They helped the Lurgan Blues become the first club from outside Belfast to win the Irish League. And 5 years later, followed up with the second league title. In 1956-7, he was named as the Ulster Footballer of the Year. He then moved to Leeds and took over the captaincy from the recently departed Leeds legend John Charles. Bruce was a very versatile player who could play in a range of positions. His performances at Elland Road earned him a call-up to the Northern Ireland international squad for the 1958 World Cup campaign, where he scored the winning goal in the team's first ever final stages World Cup match, which is a 1-0 win over Czechoslovakia and Sweden. He also played in subsequent games at the World Cup versus Argentina and West Germany, as well as a playoff again, again versus Czechoslovakia, when the side's 2-1 victory meant that they reached quarter-finals. Subsequent 4-0 loss to France, when Cush was again the side's combative number 8, meant that Northern Ireland were knocked out of the tournament. During his time at Leeds, Wilbur Cush made 90 appearances and scored 9 goals. In 1960, he moved to Portadown FC, later moving back to his first club at Glenavon as a player and later a coach. So you can see there he passed away 25th June 1981. So the next one then is up to Roselawn, just outside Belfast. This is Joe Bambrick, and you might be able to see at the base of this headstone to the right of the photograph. It says the penultimate line is head, healer, toe, slip it to Joe. Joe Bambrick was born on the 3rd November 1905, and he began his professional career with Glentoran before moving to Linfield. Leave it, Norman. Bambrick scored a total of 286 league goals in just 183 games, 50 of his goals coming in the 1930-31 season, which was the highest in the world that year, and then a record in British football. In total, that season, he managed 96 goals in all competitions, and his overall goal tally for Linfield was 509 goals, managed in just 8 years. He finishes the Irish League's top scorer on 4 occasions. On the 24th December 1935, he signed for Chelsea for a fee of £3,000, and he scored Chelsea's goal in their highest attended competitive match at Stamford Bridge in front of 82,905 spectators during a 1-1 draw with Arsenal on 12th October 1935. In total, Bambrick scored 37 goals and 66 appearances for Chelsea, then transferred to Walsall in July 1938, then returned to Linfield as a coach. He scored 12 goals in 11 games for Ireland, with his 6 goals for Ireland against Wales at Celtic Park in Belfast on the 1st February 1930 and a 7-0 win, still remaining as a record score for a British Isles player in an international fixture. Bambrick was living at 219 Rodden Street in Belfast when he died on the 13th October 1983, aged 77. And that's the blue plaque in his memory at Rodden Street. And he's commemorated there as double hat trick for Ireland 1930. So that's Roselawn, and this one is Knockbreda Cemetery. I don't have a photograph here, but it is in the book. This is Samuel Stuart Moore, better known as SS Moore. So he was a goalkeeper, and he played for Bangor, for whom he featured in the 3 games it took to settle the Steel and Sons Cup final in favour of Crusaders in 1922-23. 2 years later, then with Willowfield, he had a little more luck as he claimed an Intermediate Cup winner's medal. There then followed a lengthy return to Bangor, where Moore would star in their earliest Irish League days. And he finally moved, joining Cliftonville, where he played until his retirement. As a golfer, he had a handicap of 3. and he also played water polo for East End for 25 years. And he was selected for Ireland's 1928 Amsterdam Olympic Games squad. He's also a good cricketer, and when his own illustrious sporting days behind him, he became a director at Distillery and Ards and a member of the County Antrim FA's council for many years, regularly accompanying the Northern Ireland international squad on foreign trips. And as said earlier, known for the famous Belfast sportswear, still going to this day, SS Moors. That's Knockbreda Cemetery. That's depending on your age, Supermac or Forest Side in the background. So this is down to Bangor Clandyboy Cemetery, and this is the final resting place of Michael Goddard. The 25th of August 1995 at Stanmore Park in Dungannon. Michael was playing in a game on his 30th birthday. He was struck by a ball on the chest, led to his collapse and his death. He died on the pitch. During a stellar 10-year career with the Duns, Michael won a huge range of silverware, and his manager at the time, Mervyn Bell, fittingly said Michael was a true professional in every sense of the word, even though he was still an amateur. In 2019, the now late Mervyn Bell also stated in an interview with the Belfast Telegraph that football has given me many great memories, but what happened to Michael will haunt me for the rest of my life. Joe McAree was whose son Rodney is now the Glens manager. He was in charge of Dungannon Swifts at the time in the same game, and in June 2021, he told the Belfast Telegraph how Christian Eriksen's on-pitch collapse during UEFA the Euros 2020 brought back dark memories of the incident. So in the Duns Social Club, there's a mirror and a trophy cabinet dedicated to Michael Goddard, along with a collection of his medals. And you can see there on Michael Goddard's final resting place in Clandyboy Cemetery in Bangor, there's the representation of a Steel and Sons Cup medal, and also he was a Manchester United fan. There's a Man United logo on the top. That's Michael to the left raising a trophy, probably the Steel and Sons Cup. So this is down to Hollywood Redburn Cemetery, and this is the final resting place of the legendary Harry Walker. Again, sorry, I don't have a photograph here, but it is in the book. And he started his career as a winger with Glentoran, Broadway United, Ards and Linfield before moving to Belfast Celtic, where as a halfback he played a key role in what some regard as the finest Irish club side of all time. He was at Belfast Celtic for 17 years, and they won the Irish League Championship in 5 consecutive seasons. So he was never capped by Northern Ireland, but was commonly referred, by Ireland, but he was commonly referred to as the greatest uncapped halfback. He died whilst playing golf at Hollywood Golf Club on the 17th December 1996, aged 84, with his obituary in the Irish Times stating that his death removed, quote, one of the storied personalities of Irish League football in the period immediately before and after the Second World War. So that's Hollywood Redburn Cemetery. And you see that a son of Harry's, Brian, has recently paid for the restoration of that grave. And you can see the Belfast Celtic coloured stones on the grave. And he's commemorated there as Harry Walker, Belfast Celtic. Just up the Strabane Cemetery, and this is a particularly sad one. This is Adrian Doherty. He was born on the 10th of June 1973, and he was a winger for Manchester United. He was once hailed as a prodigious talent and a contemporary of the class of '92. In 1990, Manchester United offered Doherty a 5-year contract, but he declined, and instead opting for a 3-year deal, not wishing to be constrained by a long-term contract. Doherty was only the second player in history after Duncan Ferguson to sign a professional contract as a 16-year-old. On the 23rd of February 1991, a week before Alex Ferguson planned to give Doherty his first team debut, he suffered a cruciate ligament injury while playing in a reserve game against Carlisle United, an injury that would ultimately end his Man United career. After the expiry of his contract, he played 3 times for Derry City, the same team his father had played for. He scored on his debut against Cove Ramblers before retiring from professional football. In 2000, he took up work for a Dutch furniture company in The Hague. On the 7th May 2000, he was found unconscious in a canal in The Hague, spent more than a month in a coma in hospital before dying on 9th June, a day before his 27th birthday. Terribly sad story. He was only 26, it says there in his headstone. And you can see there that there's a journalist called Oliver Kay has written a book about Adrian called Forever Young. This is the most famous one then. This is George Best at Roselawn. Suppose George doesn't need much of an introduction. So scored 179 goals from 470 appearances over 11 years with Man United. And the peak of his career was the European Cup final victory on the 29th May 1968. He then played for a number of sides after leaving Manchester United, including 3 different sides in America: Los Angeles Aztecs, Fort Lauderdale Strikers, and San Jose Earthquakes. He was capped 37 times for Northern Ireland between 1964 and 1977. And sadly, he passed away on the 25th November 2005, aged just 59. So that's his family plot there at Roselawn. And you can see he was predeceased by his mum, Anne, well, Annie, known as Anne. Sorry, Anne, known as Annie. And then his father, Dickie, Richard, known as Dickie, passed away 3 years after George. As some folks might know, I look after George's house. It's now an Airbnb. So this is again down to Bangor Clanleyboy Cemetery. This is Clancy McDermott. He spent 6 months at Distillery before signing for Glentoran, where he spent 15 years, interrupted only by brief sojourns with Fulham, Gravesend, and Chelmsford. With the Glens, he won the Gold Cup in 1941-42. With Coleraine, he also won the Gold Cup as the manager in 1958-9. He was capped once by the Irish League in 1949, was voted the Ulster Footballer of the Year for the 1958-59 season. He was once asked by Elisha Scott to join Belfast Celtic, and Elisha Scott counted out £400 in notes to him, but McDermott refused to be tempted by the money, apparently saying, "No way, how could I replace club legend Harry Walker, who had just talked about." After his retirement as a player, he spent 13 seasons at Coleraine, followed by 2 as player manager at Bangor. He was a bricklayer by trade, but after his footballing career ended, he became a successful builder and publican, owning a string of exotic properties in North Down, and developed a taste for expensive American sports cars, and even had an Aston Martin. He also apparently had Clancy's Bar at junction of Mount Pottinger Road and Meatnars Road, and he had a pet lion which he used to bring into the bar on occasions. Quite a character. I say that's in Bangor Clanleyboy Cemetery, Clancy McDermott. And this is out at Killiney, or is it Killiney, outside between Carryduff and Ballynahinch. This is the final resting place of Alan MacDonald. And you can see he's commemorated at the base of the headstone as truly inspirational. He was born on the 12th of October 1963. He was a centre back who spent most of his career in England with Queen's Park Rangers, and notably playing in numerous Premier League seasons. He would play 402 times in the league for the club over a 16-year spell at Loftus Road. He also had brief stints in the Football League with both Charlton and Swindon. He was capped 52 times for Northern Ireland and played at the 1986 FIFA World Cup in Mexico. After retiring as a player, he briefly returned to QPR as a first-team coach before going on to manage Glentoran from June 2007 until his resignation at the end of February 2010. He collapsed and died while playing golf at Temple Golf Club near Lisburn on the 23rd June 2012. So that's Alan MacDonald. And my thanks to Michael Cockcroft for pointing me in the direction of that grave. It's the penultimate one. This is Ryan McBride. This is up in Derry City Cemetery. And Ryan McBride, he had a stint with Brandywell Harps Institute and then a trial with Gretna. But then he signed for Derry City in February 2010, broke into the first team during the 2011 season. He made his debut against Drogheda in July 2011, and later that month he was called into the League of Ireland 11 side to take part in the Dublin Super Cup. Sadly, 27-year-old Captain Fantastic was found dead at his Brandywell home on the 19th March 2017, a day after he led his side to a 4-0 League of Ireland win over Drogheda United. Hundreds of people, including President of Ireland Michael D. Higgins, packed the family church, St. Columba's Long Tower, which overlooks the Candy Stripes Brandywell Stadium. And that's now called the Ryan McBride Brandywell Stadium in his memory. And you can see on the headstone there, he's buried with his mother, but he's commemorated there alongside an image of him and the Derry City logo, where he's commemorated as Derry City captain. The last one then is the most recent one in the book, and this is Harry Gregg. He was born on the 27th of October 1932 in Tobermoor, County Londonderry, and he started his football career with Windsor Park Swifts before signing for his local club, Coleraine. At the age of 18, he earned a move across the Irish Sea to join Doncaster Rovers, and in December 1957 transferred to Manchester United for £23,500, at the time a world record fee for a goalkeeper. Gregg was a survivor of the Munich air crash, I mentioned that earlier, in 1958, and is sometimes referred to as the hero of Munich for his actions in the aftermath of the disaster. And he pulled his teammates, including Bobby Charlton, Jackie Blanchflower, and Dennis Violet, from the burning plane, as well as helping his badly injured manager, Matt Busby. Harry Gregg made a total of 247 appearances for Manchester United, as well as making 25 appearances for the Northern Ireland national team between 1954 and 1963, including at the 1958 FIFA World Cup, when he was voted the best goalkeeper of the tournament, as Northern Ireland reached the quarter-finals, as we heard earlier, with Wilbur Cush. Gregg later went into management with Carlisle United, Crewe Alexandra, Shrewsbury Town and Swansea City. After his retirement from football, he owned a Windsor hotel in the town of Portstewart, and he died on the 16th February 2020, aged 87. You can see a great little photograph of him diving to make the save there at the top of his headstone. Also has the Manchester United and IFA logos on his final resting place, which is in Coleraine Cemetery. And you can see at the base of the headstone that it says "Dare to Dream." And I think there's a foundation set up in Harry Gregg's memory that works. Well, actually, I think it was operational when he was still alive, but it helps to promote young people in sport. So that's it. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you haven't bought the book already, please do so, and thanks very much.